No, Madam Chair, I don't need to ask her.
Councillor Watson.
Yeah, no, just a very quick question on a relatively minor matter. The funding the board administration, I see there's a position here of a advisory officer that provides advice at the rate of $4,000 a month. I'm just got really two questions. One, I'm assuming this is a relatively new position, and two, what's the sort of ongoing advice that's really required for that sort of payment, given the structure of this entity?
Yeah, happy to answer that. Through you, Madam Chair, there has always been that position attached to the board. I think it equates effectively to a day a week. The advice is that person is responsible for everything from woe to go in terms of agendas, liaising with chief executives of the 10 amenities, providing us with advice around the financials. He's an accountant, qualified accountant, and working with the amenities on their strategic planning and a whole raft of activities.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just looking at the submission, I just wonder whether it could be a bit more stronger, bit stronger in relation to the current, economic or fiscal environment that we're operating in under as a council. I mean, we've got a 3.5% average rate increase, but it's been said we're going to get that back to 2.5. We are really putting the pressure on right across the region, and communities are going to hurt. And I just wonder whether, I know it says you can't, it's not apples to oranges or whatever it is, but I do think that we should be making the point to the board, which it seems it's a very old Auckland City kind of centric board, and I've made that point before. You haven't.
The conspiracy continues.
No. Well, but I do think that there probably needs to be a stronger barb in the tail of that submission. It's a bit weak on that real point that we are as a council really driving to hold those rate increases down, and every area of council should be following the same in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you'll be making any changes, will you, Madam Chair?
Yep. Councillor Clow.
Voyager Maritime Museum, are they for real applying for 100%, bang on 100% more, double? Not even 105%, not even 95%. Can you comment there? Faced with declining patronage?
Madam Chair, and you'll note that we certainly haven't entertained that proposition, and we're in discussions with Voyager, and we're hoping that Voyager will also be in discussions with Auckland Council around their future. Again, it's an organisation which is going through some change in terms of chief executive and board, and they, I know, are working closely with the sector, particularly with the museum on the hill, to try and look at some synergies and where they're heading in the future.
Thank you.
How, so with both themselves and MOTAT, MOTAT's not covered by this, anyway, so I won't ask that question. Second one is, it's really pleasing to see the Helicopter Trust not needing any money, and they were threatening us last year, and some of us were pretty annoyed at them, and we asked them to present a business case if they were coming back, and they haven't come back at all. Is there any comment on that?
I think just to be clear on that, they have not applied to the funding board for an operational grant this year, but Council will be asked to make a capital contribution towards the purchase of their new helicopter, and as I understand it, those decisions will be made as part of the LTP process.
And they do know they have to submit a very sound business case for that capital.
I have had those discussions with their chief executive, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Brewer.
Well, just on that, thank you, Madam Chair. With the Auckland Regional Rescue Helicopter, Alistair, you were saying that you asked for those that submit give 2 years of operational kind of guidance of where they want to head with their applications.
Yes.
Did the Helicopter Trust, have they given you an idea of where they want to be and what likely situation they could apply for at an operational level in 16-17?
Because they haven't been part of this funding process, we haven't received anything formally with them. I've had discussions with their chief executive and said that, look, I think it would be useful for Auckland Council and for them if we did some longer term planning to see where they are going, and that's something that they're looking at doing. So we may get some more information about their longer term funding requirements.
I see. Well, just speaking to this, Madam Chair, look, I'm really encouraged where this is heading, particularly when you take out the anomalies like the Auckland Arts Festival, with that being annualised as of not this March but next March we will see the full effect of annualisation, and we can review it accordingly. I think where you see New Zealand Opera with their outreach programs to schools and the likes, that's being well reflected there with how they're reaching out to the community, and obviously with Water Safe Auckland, they get a bit extra more than others, and that's well documented as well. And so overall, Councillor Wood was talking about 3.5% in that rates, and sure, we all reflect that, but when you also consider that the board's funding administration budget here is flatlining, and that absorbs the remuneration increases too, I think it's really pleasing to see kind of a lot of these amenities. Yes, the overall is 5.85 when you add in a 43.38% by Auckland Arts Festival, but a majority of them are sitting around kind of, around 2-3%. And so, Madam Chair, I'd go as far as saying, I know this is a debate another day, but I'd hate for this council to go down a review with only one option, and that is to revoke the ARAFA Amenities Act of 2008, because I think this is another classic example of where it's performing on budget and on track, I would say. Arguably, the previous item said they were on budget and on track, but I would actually say that this is well within budget, well within the fiscal constraints and expectations of this council and the public. And I would like to think, and it's not for the officers to comment, arguably, but I'd like to think that when we are in the process of this review, of potentially bringing it in-house or done through the guise of RFA or whatever, that we also keep the option alive of retaining, as much as Councillor Wood enjoys that legislation, retaining an option not to go to Wellington to revoke it, because frankly I think it's working, and I think the board are servicing us really well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Brewer, would you like to move the recommendation?
Well, okay, well that would make me very popular with Donald Trott from New Zealand Opera and that, wouldn't it?
Happy to second.
Victoria Carter
And
that. Yes.
Councillor Penrose?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Look, I just want to, Alistair or Vern or somebody could elaborate a little bit more on the funding board recommending a 3.5% increase for board remuneration for directors. I would have thought that that process would probably sit more with the remuneration authority as opposed to, the funding board. So can you just elaborate a wee bit more on that, please?
Yeah, I think once again, we have specific legislation which dictates what we have to do here. The Act prescribes that the funding board can recommend to Auckland Council what the director remuneration will be, and when this council, this committee is asked to agree the final levy at next month, that will also set the director remuneration. So if there's any issues that this committee has with the rates proposed, it would be an appropriate time to add that to the submission now. If you're comfortable, we can remain silent on the issue.
Should add to the submission.
So, Alistair or Josie, the increase of deputy chair remuneration, how does that compare with other directors' fees and other boards we've got?
Madam Chair, we applied the board appointment remuneration policy to the chair and the deputy chair when we reviewed it in 2013, and the funding board agreed with that. They have recommended an increase to the deputy chair's role, given the duties and the work that that position undertakes, from a 1.25 to a 1.5. In terms of the other, the MOTAT and the Auckland War Memorial Museum, I understand that they use a similar format to Auckland Council, and their remuneration at the moment is between 14 and 16k per director. So I would also add, though, that the funding board were enacted in 2008, and they never received a review until 2013, when this CCO Governance Committee approved a staggered approach, and they received a small remuneration review in 2013 and 2014. So this review probably brings them in line with the museums and the MOTAT at this stage. Whether you want to consider a 1.5% increase, 1.5 times director fee for the deputy chair is in your decision.
So, Madam Chair, I'd be
committee's decision.
interested in any other, my other colleagues around the table, what their thoughts are whether we add to the submission.
Is there any feeling to put it in the submission that we think they should stick to the 1.25? There doesn't seem to be an appetite for it, so, right. Right, so it's been moved and seconded, so I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
Have it recorded as well, please.
And I think at that stage we will break for lunch. I'm sorry to the staff that've been sitting down the back.